Velasco, and thank you for reading.
Manny Pacquiao, I suppose, I don't think there will be a problem for Manny.
Has its share of great fights. But every once in a while, human mind can also be controlled and muscle. Again, athletes often say,
And only here on Para sa Bayan.
That's the opening bell for Round by Round, presented by Eastern Communications. I'm Bill Velasco.
And I'm Ryan Sangalia. Boyd Sison joins us later on in the show.
Mabuhay Pilipinas and welcome world. Is the use of performance-enhancing drugs spreading throughout professional boxing once again? Because there have been reports that it is still being used despite the fact that all these boxing organizations are supposedly doing their best to curb the use of these banned substances. In fact, WBC junior lightweight champion Oscar Valdez tested positive for phentermine, and supposedly Canelo Alvarez also tested positive in previous tests. So Ryan, how does this happen?
I mean, first off, it's not really about spreading again, because boxing and all competitive sports, anytime your performance is linked to greater prosperity and money, you're going to have people who want to get an edge. So performance enhancing drugs, the reason why people take them is because they enhance your performance. But what we're seeing here is another instance of boxing and competitive sports teaching us science, chemistry class. I don't think 99% of boxing fans had heard of phentermine before Oscar Valdez tested positive for it. So that case, it seems, has been adjudicated in terms of the WBC not willing to being open to punishing Oscar Valdez. But we're all learning more and more about these substances that seem to spring out of nowhere. Unless you're reading the VADA banned list, you're not going to know what's going on a lot of times.
All right. Meanwhile, we asked the top expert in the country, Dr. Randolph Molo, who is head of the Medical Scientific Athlete Services of the Philippine Sports Commission. And he said it is a stimulant, it's an appetite suppressant used for cutting weight. And he says it is related to amphetamines. Now, that's a very heavy statement. And he also said it is banned by WADA for several reasons. One, you don't get tired when you're training, you recover faster, you feel stronger. Of course, you're going to feel all of this later on afterwards, but that's basically it. And we also have gathered some testimonies from some people who actually used it. Former Oakland Raider Bill Romanowski says that he felt like he could run through a wall. And then other owners of laboratories are calling out the WBC for not being able to curb this. Now, if you've watched sports documentaries like Icarus, you know that they can actually take this stuff and taper off right before they're tested so it doesn't show up. But in this case, he got caught. So what does this say for the rest of the sport, Ryan?
What it says about the rest of the sport is that there is a strong double standard that the WBC is employing here. Now, they have said that this is not a pushing drug. The testimony that you just alluded to, and these experts they're saying, no, this is a serious drug. Like the things that you were talking about, being able to run through a wall, being able to train without getting tired, that sounds like it's pretty performance enhancing when you're in a sport as physical and taxing as boxing. Now, when I talk about double standard, I'm looking at, I think 2018, David Benavidez was stripped of the WBC super middleweight title for testing positive for cocaine, not during a competition, not in training, but out of competition. And here you have someone, Oscar Valdez, who's also WBC champion, being stripped of a title in competition, testing positive for VADA, for VADA's banned substance. Now, if VADA has it banned, and WADA, which is like the standard for the substances that you're not allowed to or should not be taking as a professional athlete, then does anything matter? Like Mauricio Suleiman, who runs the WBC, says it's like taking 3 Red Bulls. I've taken 3 Red Bulls. All I've gotten was jittery. I've never been able to run through a wall or train. I wouldn't be able to train. I'd have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
So when Suleiman's saying that he's undermining the credibility of these drug testing programs, why even have them? Why even have them if you're not going to follow them? If a guy can test positive a couple weeks away from a fight for a banned substance, and I'm not calling out Oscar Valdez and saying he's a doper, he's a cheater. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not in his training camp. I don't know what he's putting into his body, even though an athlete is supposed to be responsible for what they put in their body. But when the WBC, which is, has made their name in recent years being the crusaders for drug testing, they partnered with VADA, and then they go against VADA and don't honor the findings. It hits the credibility of these organizations very seriously.
Yeah, and the way WADA works is they meticulously test all substances that are ingested, injected, or somehow find their way into the body of athletes, whether professional or amateur. We're talking the Olympics and professional sports. Now, they add to this list year in and year out, which is sort of what happened to Anna Kournikova a few years ago, when the president then of the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, Dick Pound, a former Australian Olympic swimmer, said that she would no longer be allowed to play professional tennis because she was taking a bad substance. Now, she had been taking this medication for 10 years before it was added to the WADA list. But in this case, phentermine has been on their list for years and years and years. And, this is not like the case of Juan Manuel Marquez in that fight where he knocked out Manny Pacquiao, when he was actually taking an African herb that had not been tested, courtesy of familiar name, Memo Heredia. And, they're saying that's one reason why he doesn't want to fight Pacquiao anymore, because that substance will probably show up in tests already. So in this case, this is something that is known to strengthen the athlete unfairly, unjustly, and it gives the advantage, which is, again, why they're not allowed in the first place. And it's really disheartening. And after, the WBA went through the ringer with all these weight classes, and they're being forced to shape up or ship out of the United States. Now it's the WBC. I mean, what's next? It's kind of worrying because it's sort of shaking the pillars of professional boxing worldwide.
To hit at your earlier point, I think Anna Kournikova should have been allowed to take PEDs so she could finally win a singles championship.
I was trying to be polite.
But yes, I agree. I agree that we are. Boxing is a business before it's a sport, and it's unfortunate that, like, I'm not saying that that's what happened in this case, but for certain people, for certain stars, the rules seem to change. And I think that Suleiman is realizing that, okay, people don't know about this drug. It can be whatever we say it is, right? Victor Conti, who is one of the top experts on doping in sports, both for his,
and a mean bass player.
Mean bass player, but he knows more about this stuff than anyone. He said, no, this is a very serious drug, and this is not something that people should be using. Athletes, of course, whenever things like this happen, people are going to say, well, it's it was accidentally ingested, like in the case of Canelo Alvarez. He claimed it was in the beef that he was eating that there was a banned stimulant, a banned PED. And we're going to hear that a lot from athletes, but at the end of the day, an athlete is responsible for what they put in their body. Their body is their money. That's where they make their money. So they have to be they're probably better in tune with their bodies than us. I eat at White Castle a lot. I could be eating like, phentermine or whatever. I don't know what's in those burgers. So I would have more of an excuse than an athlete would, whose body is supposed to be running like a fine-tuned machine.
All right, and now let's go on to our Eastern Communications Fearless Fighter of the Day. Ryan?
Well, I'm going to go with we were just speaking about him, Oscar Valdez. And
Gee, I wonder why.
yeah, well, before I knew any of that, I really believed that he was going to successfully defend. Really, the hardest part for him was getting to the ring, and he got over that because the WBC says, yeah, no, the fight can go forward. But I'm picking him over Robson Conceição of Brazil, even before all this stuff, because Valdez has just looked really good lately. He has, is coming off of that big knockout win over Miguel Berchelt to win that super featherweight championship. That was one of the great knockouts of this year. I don't think anything's going to top that knockout. He really slumped that guy forward. And he looked very much improved from his previous stint at 126. He may have been struggling to make weight a bit there, but he looked very strong at 130. Conceição, 32 years old, hasn't really impressed as a professional the way he did as an amateur when he was, he out of the Rio Olympic Games. He was one of the big Olympic stars for Brazil, but hasn't really translated to the professionals. You know what? I'm probably gonna go with Valdez by knockout here, maybe mid rounds or so, because he's a little bit too strong for Conceição. Before we knew all that we knew now.
Right. That is our Eastern Communications Fearless Fighter of the Day. Now, another order of business. Light welterweight champ Josh Taylor says that he could easily defeat WBA super welterweight champion Yordenis Ugas because he's knocked him down in sparring. Taylor, of course, has been trying to get into the news a lot. He's also calling out these alleged drug cheats in boxing, and now he's bringing up some little-known fact that he knocked down Ugas in sparring. But then, you don't know when this happened, how long ago it happened. This is a guy who wants to win another world title in a higher weight class, and he's really just trying to stir the pot and get people interested in him.
Yeah, I agree, but this is something that's new, and I don't like it. I'm still getting used to it. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. Guys talking about things in the gym, right? What happened in the gym stays in the gym.
Exactly,
now,
I agree.
Anyone could get knocked down in the gym. Like, Oliver McCall dropped Mike Tyson in the gym. Does that mean Oliver McCall would knock out Michael Spinks and Larry Holmes? I don't think so. So yeah, no, I don't agree with this new, guys are bringing phones to the gym and recording sparring sessions to share them to, as if that's a fight. It's anything can happen in the gym. You don't know how in shape a guy is when they're sparring, what part of camp they're in. That's why what matters is fight night. Now, that said, Josh Taylor is an amazing fighter. He ran through the 140-pound division. He is one of the real tough guys of boxing. He's a very skilled, slick boxer, but he's also tough. When his fights with Regis Prograis and Jose Ramirez, they were very good. And, he outclassed two very good fighters. So I don't think it'd be too far-fetched to say that he would beat Yordenis Ugas, who is older. He's a pretty, how he's going to fight. He's very much right there. He's a boxer, but he's there in front of you. Josh Taylor has so many wrinkles to his game. He's not saying anything out of school in that regard.
And moral of the story is that's practice. You can say, any NBA team can say, we beat the Lakers in practice. We tried different things in practice, but that doesn't mean anything. That's why there are summer leagues.
The college team beat the dream team. Remember when the college team beat the dream team in '92? That doesn't mean that they were gonna they were the better team. It's practice.
Yeah. until you piss off Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and then he run up the score on you.
In another bit of news, Olympic bronze medalist Yumir Marshall was honored by the brand new Walk of Fame in Zamboanga City. Of course, Marshall is a native there, and of course, this is something that's become increasingly common. In fact, this is the second known Walk of Fame in the Philippines. The first one, of course, is in Quezon City and the Eastwood Mall area. Of course, the original one is in Hollywood, where they practically run out of space. Now, there's just two things I don't like about this. One, particularly the one in Hollywood, is they put your name there, but you're going to pay for the maintenance and for the cleaning of that spot. And two, why is everybody stepping on it? I prefer the way they did with Muhammad Ali. His star is actually on the wall. When you go to enter a Man's Chinese Theater, it's actually on the wall. So even in the afterlife, nobody steps on Muhammad Ali. So that's one thing that I would really like. What they should do is really make these places tourist destinations. I remember before it's your star, your handprints, your footprints, or any other symbol of you. But now it's just that star, and it tarnishes, the letters wear out, and I don't know. I just don't think it's really something that's lasting or as striking as maybe, I don't know, putting up a statue or something.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm saying that as I'm like about 100 yards away from the statue of former heavyweight champion James Braddock here in North Bergen, New Jersey. I think a statue is a great way to memorialize a fighter. I know that in Murcia, there is a statue of Donny Nietes, that they unveiled a few years ago. We need to celebrate our sports heroes, our boxing heroes, because let's face it, we're a boxing country. And I think it's really sad that a lot of our athletes, their accomplishments fade with time. You look at like Pancho Villa, his tombstone is in disrepair. There's a bust.
In fact, one of his grandsons had to fly back from the United States to get somebody to care for it because it was really overgrown. The paint was chipping off, and it's one of these old style, concrete sculpted busts. So that erodes with time with all the typhoons, and we get more than 20 typhoons a year. So that's going to soften the concrete. And of course, you've got birds and cats and whatever, and the undergrowth. So it's really, you're right. It is something we have to do that's lasting and that will be taken care of.
Now, when we talk about statues, I think it matters who makes them, right? Because I've seen some great statues here in the United States. Driving up last time, I passed through Eastern Pennsylvania and I saw Larry Holmes' statue. It was amazing. The one here, James Braddock, is really incredible. They have Joe Frazier. They have all different boxers. The one at Mall of Asia of Manny Pacquiao, that was probably the worst I'd ever seen. Like, it doesn't look at all like Pacquiao, just like a guy, in Pacquiao shorts. So it really doesn't matter. You have to get a good artist, if you're going to do a statue of a boxer or anyone.
And now we'll turn you over to our colleague Boyet Sison, who will do part 1 of his series on the history of celebrity boxing. And you'll be surprised at some of the names on this list.
Thank you, Bill and Ryan. Alam nyo, mga kaibigan, kahit nga nung kabataan natin, pati mga kagamba sa lagubang, aso't pusa, at minsan pa nga, pati mag-asawa, pinaglalaban natin, hindi ba? Huwag kayong makaila, huwag kayong mag-deny, di ba? Okay, on social media nowadays, mga kaibigan, pati yung mga ordinaryong tao ay nare-record, nakukunan na nag-aaway, at pag ito ay naging viral, nangyayari yun dahil yung isa sa mga taong nakunan, malamang may certain level of popularity or baka celebrity, hindi ba? Now, the standards for winning a fight seems less arbitrary than any other sport. And because of this, the world of celebrity boxing came to be. Naipanganak, ika nga. Now, maraming opinion tungkol dito. May mga nagsasabi na sumasang-ayon sila, meron din namang hindi. Siyempre, yung mga boxing purists, alam nyo na, panayampo na. Samantalang yung mga iba naman, tuwang-tuwa pag may nakikita silang ganyan at kanilang napapanood. Now, ang history, mga kaibigan, ng modern celebrity boxing can be traced back to 1994 when American actor and comic si Danny Bonaducci na kasama po sa Partridge Family. Kung medyo kaedad niyo ako, naabutan niyo yun, Partridge Family. Siya po ay pumasok sa telon, no? Na nakalaban niya itong isa pang teen idol no kapanahonan ng 70s na si Donny Osmond in a charity exhibition. Nagsimula po itong labanan na ito dahil sa pag-uudyok ng isang American radio personality na si Jonathan Brandmeier ng WLUP-FM in Chicago sa Amerika, na sabi niya si Donny Osmond, sabi niya kay Danny Bonaducci, Donny Osmond, pinupuno yung workout routine mo, Bonaducci. Tapos nagkahamunan. Tapos ayun, naganap yun sa China Club sa Chicago. Noong panahon na yun, nasa mga edad 30 silang pareho. No, ngayon itong 3-round fight na ito ay nagresulta na kung saan si Bonaducci ay nanalo po with a split decision victory. Nagkaroon pa nga mga kaibigan ng sagutan. Pagkatapos, insulto ni Bonaducci at ang nakababa na kapatid na babae ni Donny Osmond na isa ring singer na si Marie Osmond. Ngayon, nalala niyo, di ba? Donny and Marie, di ba? TV show. Nalala niyo yun. Okay. Noong naman 2002, ang Fox Networks naman mga kaibigan ay gumawa ng isang bagong television show na pinamagatang Celebrity Boxing, kung saan ang mga celebrities na hindi nagaanong sikat were pitted against each other in exhibition bouts. Now, 2 one-hour specials were aired in total featuring acclaimed ring announcer Michael Buffer. Yun, kilala niyo yung pangalan na yun. Now, the first episode featured the return of Danny Bonaducci, who defeated fellow actor Brian Williams, na isa ding sikat na artista dahil sa isa na namang family-oriented television program in the 70s, which was entitled The Brady Bunch. Now, this episode also featured a bout between Different Strokes actor Todd Bridges at ang rapper na ang kumanta ng Ice Ice Baby na si Vanilla Ice. Now, yung second episode naman mga kaibigan ay naglaban yung si WWE superstar si Johnny China Laurer at si Joey Buttafuoco na nakatulan ng charges ng rape. Now, si China lost by a majority decision. Now, hindi sumikat ang programa at nabansagan pa nga ng TV Guide sa Amerika ng one of the 50 worst TV shows of all time. Now, alam niyo mga na pati si Shaquille O'Neal, NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal mga kaibigan, ay sumabak din sa ganitong laban. In 2009, ABC Network in America produced a reality show called Shaq versus Someone. Okay, yun ang titulo. Kung saan si O'Neal challenged top athletes in their own sports. Now, during the first season, mga kaibigan, nagkaroon ng laban between Shaquille O'Neal and, believe it or not, Oscar De La Hoya, which was a 5-round sparring matchup which De La Hoya won by a unanimous decision. Now, the following year, si Shaquille O'Neal naman, hinamon naman si Sugar Shane Mosley, who also defeated the basketball legend via a unanimous decision. Ito isang trivia dyan. Sino po ang trainer ni Shaquille O'Neal? Sige nga. Sige nga. Sige, sirit. Wala pong iba kung hindi si Freddie Roach. Baltakin nyo yan, ha? Freddie Roach pa ang trainer ni Shaquille O'Neal. Ngayon, the greatest, if not one of the greatest fighters of all time, Muhammad Ali, ay muntikan ng makalaban ang isa pang legend, si Wilt Chamberlain. Alam niyo ba yon? Pero hindi po natuloy yun. Nagkahamunan lang, pero hindi po natuloy yun. Kung siguro natuloy yun, ano kaya, no? Pagklase. Pero alam niyo mga kaibigan, hindi lang sa Amerika meron pong ganito. Pati sa iba't ibang lugar sa mundo. Pati na nga dito nga sa Pilipinas meron din eh. Pero alam niyo ba na hindi lang mga athletes at mga celebrity ang lumalak sa ganyan? Pati po mga politiko ay humahantong sa ganitong gimmick upang maging mas popular sila sa mga mamamayan, lalo na sa panahon ng kampanya. Malapit sa atin, hindi ba? May politiko kayang sasabak sa ganyan para maging popular? Tatalakayin po natin yan sa ating susunod na chapter ng Celebrity Boxing. Kayo, ano po mga pananaw ninyo? Send us your comments on our Round by Round Facebook page. Now back to Bill and Ryan.
And that's the final bell for this episode of Round by Round presented by Eastern Communications. I'm Bill Velasco.
And I'm Ryan Sangalia. We're on Facebook at 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and on our YouTube channel at 7 p.m. So like, follow, share, and subscribe now.
Dennis Principe, Boyet Season, and Nisi Casiano answer the bell for you on the next Round by Round. All boxing, all Filipino, all the time. See you.